Welcome to Season 4 of the Talking Lead AK Korner, proudly presented by Sentry Arms.
Not that bad.
Right, that's pretty bad. Pretty bad.
It's like wicked bad.
Charles, I don't think we've met yet, but fan of your products, so stoked to be getting to know you tonight.
Yeah, man, appreciate it. And that's been a big dude. Every time anyone finds out that I work for CMC or whatever, everyone always asks me like, "What's your take on the binary triggers?" And us personally, we'll never make one. For us, it's just the way that we look at it's a big liability situation. But at the exact same time, it's if once you actually learn how to run our stuff, you can pretty much, like what you just said, you can shoot it faster than most binary triggers anyways.
Sure.
We deal with competition guys all the time that run our stuff, and they run our product almost at a full auto capacity. It's just it's insane when some of these guys really get used to them.
Yeah.
Hello, Mr. Hall.
There he is.
Hey, I bet I know what y'all were talking about.
Got your monster drink? Oh, that's it. Get your drinks ready, too. If you don't have your drinks, get your drinks ready. This is going to be a good one. We got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, guys.
Lots and lots. All right, everybody ready? Anybody got any questions on anything?
Yeah.
What?
Can I show you this rash and tell me if you think I need to go to a doctor?
You just put a little cream on there. You'll be fine. Salve it up.
All right. Just, amongst friends, I figured.
I mean, you got my email.
Okay,
Marty,
AK.
let's
What?
give away 3 Occam Vortex flash hiders for
Okay.
this show for
2
the end there.
2 for the listeners and 1 for me? Okay, perfect.
Yeah, sounds good.
Just
No, I'm happy to kick one over to you.
No. Oh, by the way, you did win something from last episode, so you might want to listen
Oh, I will.
to the last
I will.
episode.
Good deal. Thanks
And
for the
email
heads
me
up.
your contact info, and
I know if I don't
Whatnot.
do it, you're gonna fucking cock block me too.
I
I
will.
Yeah, totally.
Unfortunately for you, it was a League of Pirates sticker pack. So
Oh no shit. That's actually something I want.
All right, AK heads, we are back with another episode of your favorite, the Talking Lead AK Korner, presented by Sentry Arms. And we don't have anybody from Sentry Arms on today. Andrew was going to join us, but everybody found out last episode he got engaged, so the ball and chain is taking him out to do like wedding stuff tonight, so he couldn't join us. Unfortunately,
To a woman that is way, way too good.
out of his
for
league.
him. Way out of his league.
like way up out of his league.
Yeah,
But,
I don't know what's wrong with her, but everybody's got their preferences,
him.
right? You can't.
he's what's wrong with her. But
There's no accounting for taste. So to make up for it, I brought in all the other cool guys. And joining us this episode, who missed last episode, is my co-host, Brian Keeney, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome in,
Stoked
Brian.
to be back in the co-captain's chair with you here.
Well, you were sorely missed, and I'm glad you're back. And we've all been thinking about you, so sounds like things are going better. And
Yeah.
we're gonna
Mrs. Occam sends her thanks for all the well wishes and prayers and all that. So thank you.
Very good, very good. And for those who listen to our regular program, Brian was a winner in the last episode, our last regular episodes, and that was not staged either. So since he doesn't
I never
co-host
win anything.
Since you didn't co-host that show, you were eligible to win. So you participated, you won.
I can't wait to listen to the episode. I just saw it pop here.
So it was with the author John Gilstrap, and it was a really good interview with John. He's one of us kind of guy. Even though he's in that world with the Hollywood and the all that stuff. He's down to earth, good America 2A loving dude. So it's a good show, and he's into explosives.
Ooh.
So yeah.
Nice.
There any tips and recipes in his books?
Well, he might, talk a little bit about him, because I think one of his main characters is, he likes to blow stuff up. So
I have been enjoying all of the helpful infographics from Ukraine on how to make Molotov cocktails. The world there are some upsides to the current state of the world. Yeah. Watching babushkas. Have you guys been seeing the babushkas grating styrofoam into buckets? Yeah, getting it going.
An ingredient.
Well, we're going to talk about that too. Let me go around the table here. So, Brian, welcome in. And as you said, the state of affairs in Ukraine and Russia and all that, we brought in an expert to get us some updates on really what's happening over there. We brought in Jay with the League of Pirates. Jay, welcome back, buddy.
Oh, well, thank you for having me back. Appreciate it. Always a pleasure, especially with such a great crowd tonight.
Yeah, we're glad you came out of hiding. So thanks.
I'm not in hiding. I mean, I'm distinctly shadow banned, and on the.
That means you're doing good if you get shadow banned.
Isn't that right? That's right.
Losing all my.
And then that voice you heard, John Houlton with M13 Industries. We're going to be talking about muzzle brakes, stocks, triggers today, and who better to talk about that than our good buddy from Las Vegas, John Houlton.
Howdy, howdy.
His video isn't working either, so we're not going to have the graces of his beautiful chops.
Sorry.
More so, I was hoping that you would have gun porn for us. You'd have some things to hold up and show us. But
well, I got gun porn. I'm going to try to get the camera to work, but it's not working right now.
Okay. All right. And then back for a second dose of the Talking Lead AK Korner up in New Hampshire is none other than Ken Allen. Ken, welcome in.
Thank you, gentlemen. Good to see y'all.
Well, we're glad to have you back, and I know you're going to have a lot to contribute to the topic today, and especially the Ukraine stuff too. I think you probably got a good thumb on the pulse of that too. And it's been a while since we've had this guest on, but he's a frequent to the show, been on many times, and we were going to have his whole gang on, but as a lot of you lead heads know, I made a post, and you've seen their post as well. Our good friend Charles Waston passed away recently, but we are glad that Zach was able to make it on and be a part of this show. We are actually dedicating this show to the memory of Charles Waston. We were really looking forward to having him on and him sharing his wisdom. Always an asset to the show, and funny guy too. I loved Charles. He was awesome, man.
Yeah, he was. He's already been deeply missed at the shop.
Zach Hall joining us, and I did because I didn't know exactly how many shows that he had been on, but I went back and was going through old episodes, and he was on at least half a dozen shows throughout the years, and probably some that I didn't actually mark him in. But yeah, always a big part, especially when we would attend events. You guys would come in and make a big presence, and we greatly appreciate it. One of the first companies that we actually interviewed when we started Talking Lead 10 years ago was, you were a different company then, but Aklys Defense.
Yeah.
And we were so humbled that, big TV stars like yourselves would have anything to do with us.
You've always been personal friends of mine, and then y'all just cool. So
well, that's what it is. Everybody's cool, and you guys have always been cool. And the nickname Left Hand. For years people were at, how did you get the name Left Hand? How did you get the name Left Hand? And I would have a different story every time somebody would ask me. And so this one time I ran a contest. I said, whoever could come up with the best background for how I came up with Left Hand wins, whatever I was giving away. And you guys happened to be on that episode, and Charles came up with this, the greatest story I'd ever heard, but it had to do with spaghetti westerns. There was this old spaghetti western that had, what was his name? Terrence Hill and that Bud guy. They were always duos in movies. And one was right hand of the devil and the other one was left hand of the devil. And he went in through that whole story of how how that thing played out. And he goes, that's how you came up with your name. I was like, winner. You win.
That's a good one.
You win.
He was the master of obscure knowledge.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And I have been binging spaghetti westerns for the last couple of weeks. So
there's some doubled up nerd humor there with the left hand. In Latin, the right hand is called dexter, like Dexter.
Dexterity. And
yeah, there you go. And the left hand, or the left is sinister or sinister. And this idea of sibilance, snake sounds, and the devil and all that. Yeah, Lefty. Yeah,
a little strange.
Yeah, you got it.
Getting a little strange there. Yeah. And I think I've got everybody except our new guy. Did I miss anybody? So our new guy joining us, we've got Mr. Charles West, and Charles is with CMC Triggers. And Charles and I met this summer. Was it this summer? I guess it was this summer. At the Big Daddy Unlimited Epic Shoot. You guys were there, and I just happened to come by your booth, and I saw you had some AKs down there. I was like, huh? And you guys have an awesome AK trigger that we're going to talk about today. So, Charles, welcome in.
Hey, appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. And we've got representation all over the United States. So we've got Texas represented. We've got New Hampshire. We've got Tennessee. We've got Louisiana / Tennessee, because Zach is originally from Tennessee. We've got Moscow, Idaho. And then we've got where Jay is from, and I'm not going to say. So.
We literally have all the states that don't suck. It's great.
And Las Vegas. I'm sorry, John. John, I forget you're there because I don't have your video up, brother.
Sorry.
From Las Vegas, the great state of Vegas.
Yeah.
Or Nevada.
A lot of those white plates coming in this state, unfortunately.
Vegas should be its own state.
Yeah. Well, we need to get all those white plates out of here first.
All those white plates?
Yeah, that's where our politically correct way of calling Californians.
Ah, I got you. Unfortunately, they're inundating everywhere.
Yeah.
I just had some neighbors move in, I think, that are from California.
I just got some California neighbors too.
You just shot some? Is that what you said?
No, man. I just got some.
Oh, I got you. Well, you can have mine too.
I was actually born in New Hampshire, so I'm covering all kinds of stuff on this.
Oh, look at you. You're like
Whereabouts?
Littleton.
Oh, no joke. Way up north. Nice.
Yeah, way up there.
Yep.
We're going to get some snow here tonight in Tennessee, the Nashville area. They're calling for like 3 or 4 inches. It's been like 75 the last 2 days. Just perfect, balmy weather. The grass is growing and things are in bloom. And it's supposed to get like down to 0. It's ridiculous. It's freaking ridiculous. I think you were telling me the same thing there in your area, right, Charles? In Texas.
Yeah, it's going to be 28 tonight, and then in 2 days it's going to be over 80. So yeah. Texas is extremely bipolar when it comes to weather.
Hey, it's that global warming, you know. All right, so we're going to talk muzzle devices, triggers, stocks, whatever else comes up. We've got a shift ton of questions from listeners on Instagram and Facebook, and I know you guys had done some repost, so you may have some questions on your sites as well, and we're going to field those, but we'll probably answer most of the questions during the segment, but then we'll go field some of those questions, and then we've got some awesome giveaways today. We're going to be giving away Century Arms, our presenting sponsors, going to be giving away a 10-pack of their AK mags. It's actually U.S. Palm, but you know everybody knows Century owns them. We're going to give away a Mission First Tactical dump tray with the Talking Lead logo on there. Armorer's tray, gunsmith tray, wherever you want to use it. You could even eat your TV dinner off these things, you know. Sit there by the TV. We're going to give away an awesome Seal 1 complete gun care kit right here. So one lucky winner will win one of these. And Brian made the announcement earlier that they're going to be giving away 3 Occam Defense muzzle devices. How awesome is that?
Yeah, and these will technically be suppressor. Yeah, what Ken's holding up for those on video. Thank you, Ken.
Put that closer.
Yeah, it's a licensed dead air key mount system in the back. You can use the dead air pyros to put on.
Is this different?
Yep, that's a dead air, and that's the key mount. So you see the stuff in the back is the same.
Yeah.
And they make a cool adapter. So even if you got a silencer can or an Aklys can, I just got a Saber 360 from them that's going to get a a chemo adapter on the back. Hells yeah.
Aklys can.
Super
very, very cool can. And so key mount in the back and then a Vortex style 4-prong flash hider up front.
Very cool. And then Charles, the new guy, did not come empty-handed. Charles, tell them what CMC Triggers is going to do for our listeners.
We're going to give away one of our three different trigger bows for the AK trigger.
Very nice. And it may be a minute, just a little disclaimer. So whoever wins that, it may take a few weeks to get those in because they're like in turn right now and getting supplies and stuff in. Look, like everybody is. So
that is correct.
But you will get it.
Absolutely. One
lucky winner. Is that everything? I think that's all the stuff we're giving away. So who knows? There might be other stuff pop up by the end of the show. So where you guys want to start? You'll start the front. You'll start the back.
Front.
We'll start with the devices, the muzzle devices. All right. So the AK-47, AKM, AK-74, the original Slant Break. I've got one right here that came on. Who wants to field that and talk about the functionality of that Slant Break? Get out of the way here. My camera's like doing stuff backwards tonight. It's going the opposite of what I normally do.
You're in temporal flux, man. I'd ride it.
So, Jay, tell us about the Slant Break that the Russians, their original design.
Okay, so the Slant Break, right? Everybody who, at some point winds up clicking through a bunch of pictures on the wiki or, checking out some of those like super sweet moddies and whatnot from everybody's favorite, like most awesome Republic movie, Red Dawn, will be pretty familiar with what looks like a barrel device that just looks like it has like a little 45-degree cut on it. And basically the entire purpose of that is that it's neither flash reducing in any capacity really, or does anything other than direct gas for right-hand shooters, so that when it goes to full EAT, they can remotely keep.
We're losing you, Jay. Remotely keep. Did you guys lose Jay too?
Yeah.
How about now? Now
you're back.
Oh, really? Okay, so I have to stay within router range? All right, whatever. The
must be that Apple phone you're using.
Apple phone, my ass. I'm not a fucking communist.
Attaboy, my man. The hell, Apple.
Dude, I'm talking to you on like one of like it's Friday night. This is a burner phone. So
got that at Walgreens.
Walgreens. Here, side note on that.
Yeah.
You can add this to the show.
Okay.
Right? Anybody who did not take advantage of wearing a mask and paying cash for burner phones when it was totally cool to walk into Walmart wearing sunglasses, a baseball cap, and a face mask, and didn't buy a bunch of nefarious shit, missed an opportunity.
That's their loss, right?
That's their loss. So, like, share, and subscribe. That's your League of Pirates moment.
There we go.
But,
I like it.
So, Slant Breaks, I don't know, just edit it in wherever it starts making sense if I ever come to that.
Oh, this is great. This is gold.
Yeah, whatever. So, Slant Breaks basically have a 45-degree cut on the end, ish, kind of. And it's exclusively to push gas for right-hand shooters to the left. And that's it.
That's the whole purpose.
That's it. Like, it's a simple device for a simple tool for a peasant. That's it.
And then throughout the years, they have developed, and now we've got just the sky's the limit on muzzle devices. Brian.
Yes, sir.
Since you are in the process currently in the market, and John may be too. John, are you making muzzle devices?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I sell the ones for JMac, but
yeah,
that's all I do.
So talk about the intricacies of the AK and a good designed muzzle device, whether it's a break or a flash suppressor.
Hey, that's a great conversation. Is Zach actually knows a lot about this, and I'm sure John does it. Well, anybody that knows stuff, chime in. But having failed at a few muzzle device designs and then figured out my ass from a hole in the ground eventually, I do have some insight on it now. And the most important thing to understand is that fundamentally breaks and flash hiders are enemies. And there are wizards who manage to combine both to a certain degree, but I think an effective muzzle brake that is also a really good flash hider is called a suppressor. So what's going on is, imagine a trumpet and that you're blowing gas out of that thing. And what's happening is, as the bell of the trumpet opens, the pressure is going to drop in that air. It's going to be high pressure as it's in the tube and as it comes out the front end, because you have the same air moving out of down that tube that's now in a bigger space. By definition, the pressure is going to be lower. What flash hiders do is they do that in as many ways as possible. In every angle, on every face of the flash hider, it's trying to act like a trumpet. And what that does is it lowers the pressure, which also lowers the temperature of the exhaust gases. And if it's a good one, brings them down below the temperature at which those gases can ignite. So it's like dirty gas out of a wood stove. If you're burning really hot and clean in a wood stove, you won't get any smoke at all, because it's being combusted and is on fire in the chimney or in the stove. And that's what you're trying to do, is to get those gases cool really quick so that they don't actually flash. And there's a lot of devils and a lot of details after you get there, because sometimes all the different little trumpets, the different faces that are angling outwards, you'll get kind of like an interference pattern where 6 feet out the front of the gun, those different gases will collide again in a vortex, boost that pressure again. It's like turbulence in an airplane. Mm-hmm. Turbulence is your enemy. That's why you'll see that fireball like 6 feet out starting from the front of the gun, is those different gases are colliding.
Yeah.
So
there are some muzzle devices that play on that and enhance it.
Absolutely.
Because who doesn't love a fireball, breaks. Right?
Yeah. And if you want to really be an asshole with a muzzle brake, you can get a pyro or something. There's a bunch. There's the laugh. There's a bunch. But a muzzle brake does exactly the opposite thing. And I normally talk about that first. So hopefully if you're confused, then maybe
chime
listen
in,
to the
Zach.
second part, back it up to 2 minutes, and you'll be in better shape. Fundamentally, with the muzzle brake, what you're doing is you're using those exhaust gases coming out of the front end of the gun, and you're redirecting them. in the case of the slant break, which is, as Jay described, just a 45, or I don't know the angle, but it looks a bit like a grain scoop or a spoon.
It's a little more
all
than
that's
a 45.
All that's going on there is the gases are being allowed to vent in every direction except where the little duck bill or spoon is. And so you are going to get some flash increase from that, but not a lot. A better example of where you start to get pretty concussive and redirecting the gases a lot is JMac makes a very fine tank brake. You know, they took the physics of the classic big ass tank brakes that you see on modern tanks, and they did that for the AK.
Zach, weren't we going to have him on tonight?
No, he said he was busy. He couldn't make it, but he would have been a perfect guest for this one.
Yeah. So that brake is outstanding at keeping the muzzle down, which is and lowering recoil, which are typically the two things you're trying to achieve. And if you can actually go even beyond where the JMac is and angle those fins backwards towards the shooter. And what that does, like I think a Barrett might have a minor degree of backwards cant to it. And what that actually does is pull the gun forward away from your shoulder. And so that's how you get these really low recoil, enormous calibers that aren't that big a deal. The problem is that, or the downside, I said there's flash hiders and brakes are essentially enemies. There's two problems that crop up. And I should say that a flash hider, if it's perfect, does absolutely nothing for muzzle rise or recoil reduction. You know, the best flash hiding will be the worst at what a brake does. And the best brakes in general will be the worst at flash hiding. And then you can start trading off between those two things. There's two downsides to a brake. The first one is that when the gases hit those baffles, the pressure, it's like a fire hose hitting a brick wall. Like, that gas has a lot of momentum to it. And when it piles into that wall, it's going to boost the pressure dramatically and actually increase ignition increase ignition. And that's why you see a much bigger fireball in general coming out of brakes. And there's a second downside that is the one and the same, actually. That boosted pressure manifests as concussion. And for me, I actually can't shoot brakes anymore. I shot so many of them on our production guns that I've become sensitive to it, and I kind of get my bell rung. And the military and combat veterans out there, you have my full permission to be laughing right now, because I know what I've endured isn't a pimple on the ass.
It's a real thing, man. That can cause TBI.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't shoot brakes anymore that I can't stick a blast can on. And that is one way to moderate how a brake works. Like, if you're in California, the reason we make
Zach's holding one up now.
Yeah. The reason that we sell a suppressor mount on our California brakes is so you can defeat it and get around the law. Now ours, there's another way to defeat the concussion, but still lower your muzzle rise. And get a lot of the benefits of a brake without getting your bell rung. And that's actually our brake, which we don't sell in any other form but on our guns. Those baffles are actually angled forward. And what that does is it angles the blast wave forward away from the firing line. And so if you're in a class around other people, or you're sensitive to concussion, that's a really good way to get around that problem. So, all of this stuff is simple and also super, super, super complicated. And hopefully the explanation I've provided there gives people
simple
some sort of...
if you're a physicist like you.
Well, I got to say, to get complicated it gets deep end of the pool really, really quick to design brakes that are phenomenal.
Yeah.
We ended up coming up with one that it's not great on performance. Like, if you want the flattest shooting brake out there, you know, there's a bunch of people that do that well. That's not what we do on ours. We optimize for shooter comfort and defeating, awful gun laws. So that's the sort of 30,000 foot view. And then there's a few weird animals, like a I've heard that the Noveske Flaming Pig is pretty interesting. And we'll get into the blast cans and the compressed booster cans like on the Crank in a little bit. But there are some weird little animals that don't fit cleanly into what I've just described, and compensators and all the rest. There's things, but they're all, with the exception of boosters, they're all kind of a mix of the two things that I was talking about between the flash hider and the brake.
Yeah. Zach, you got anything to add to that?
Yeah.
He's chomping over there. I see him.
Yeah. One thing on the company called DeGroat, which was James DeGroat. He's more in the minigun industry, but does a lot of other stuff. He actually made a flash enhancer, and it worked. And there was a lot of science behind it, because as easy as it is to make a brake that works and make a flash hider that pretty well works, actually increasing the muzzle flash is just as difficult. And it was something to see. I don't think he still makes those anymore.
How do you spell his last name while you're talking about it? I'll try to pull it up.
Degroat, as far as I know of. It's DeGroat Industries or DeGroat Tactical.
Okay.
Like Brian says, one of the things I do when I design muzzle brakes is I try and keep the shooter in mind and the somewhat the other people on the line around them, but there's only so much you could do with that. So on our 30 caliber muzzle brakes, our new 338 muzzle brake and stuff, the actual walls that the high pressure gas hits are angled forward. That it reduces the effectiveness of the brake a little bit, but it massively increases the comfort of the shooter. And granted, most everything is designed to go inside a silencer, but still, you don't shoot suppressed all the time.
Well, and would you mind going into very briefly, Zach, the role that a brake plays in extending suppressor life while we're right in here?
I wish I had the parts with me. I did a series of tests years ago to more for materials testing, and I did a flash hider and then a handful of different muzzle brakes and then a bunch of different materials on a 7-inch M16 doing mag dumps into what was basically just the blast chamber on a silencer with interchangeable blast baffles. And we would heat it up to about 600-700 degrees and then do a full mag dump of 40 rounds out of a PMag into it and see what kind of wear we got on the various materials.
Wow. Did you do a video of that?
There are some videos floating around on YouTube and stuff. The Fireball is absolutely impressive because it's just an enclosed little, it's about the size of our flash can, but capped off. So it's just the blast chamber and nothing actually stopping any of the flame front. Wow. It was a fire breathing beast and a lot of fun.
Well, one of the things we found flames out is fun.
Yeah.
But not to the guy next to you.
Yeah. One of the things we found out was putting one of our our simple little, let me see if I can there we go.
Yeah.
It's got a series of holes and they're all timed out very specifically. There's a large segment that doesn't have holes. If you look inside, it's kind of hard to see probably.
Yeah, your camera sucks. Oh, see if I can get mine.
Yours sucks worse than mine does.
My camera? Mine's coming in great on my end.
It's coming in great on mine.
Yeah, you're coming in good. Yeah, there's a nice meat harvester on the front end of that thing.
So what we found out was the 16-inch barrel with the flash hider was putting the same kind of wear as the 7-inch barrel with the muzzle brake on it on the surface. So what the flash hider did was keep all that hot, hard particulate, unburnt powder and everything else from impacting the blast baffle, the initial surface, which wasn't really good for our testing, but it did show, because I've heard it for years, brakes help, but to what extent they help was really not understood. There was almost no wear in any of the testing when we used the brakes. The flash hider actually increased wear on the blast baffle, even more so than the bare muzzle did.
Wow.
So yeah, it just funnels all of that hot gas right into the blast baffle.
Yep. That's what I hear from other manufacturers as well. And especially for like OSS.
Yeah.
They require it to be shooting into the vortices, or it's not a vortex, the helices on the outside of that can. Mm-hmm. But that is what I hear, is that a little bit of brake can go a long way.
It goes a way long way.
Mm-hmm.
The one of the things I'll do when I design a new muzzle brake is I'll make it out of really cheap A36 or 1018 steel. Don't nitride it. Put it on some really short-barreled machine gun and just beat on it. So it doesn't have any good wear resistance. It's not hardened. It shows the effect, and I can save on ammo costs of what the brake will look like in extended use, and see how it wears. Just
accelerate the process. Yeah, that's smart. John, what about you, buddy? You got anything to add to this discussion on the muzzles?
No, that's pretty much what I've always seen and stuff like that. I've actually seen, we have a muzzle brake we call the no make a gun run brake that we're not sure who it belongs to, but it will actually make a gun start malfunctioning because it best we could tell it's bringing the pressure out of the gun too fast. Because you put it on almost any gun that is tuned pretty good, not a huge gas port, and the gun will actually start having feeding issues because it can't cycle itself back enough.
So that's one you don't want to use.
Yeah. And then we also have the one that we had one sent to us to demo and try out on some of our guns, and we call it the V8. So if you imagine a V8 engine, it looks just like that, except for it just has two ports. It'd be like a V4. Like the Scat V4 motors.
Uh-huh.
So it has two ports, just like that would be the cylinders, and it has a row on top of them of ports as well. And that one, if we hate somebody, we'll put that on your gun because it kicks the buttstock into your face.
Oh shit!
Because it shoves the nose down so hard that the stock comes up and actually cracks you in the cheek.
So we should be manufacturing these and sending them to our enemies.
Yeah, if you really want to hurt somebody, you give them that thing because they're going to shoot about 10 shots and then ask you what's wrong with the gun.
That must be what the Russians are using right now.
Now, they have the ear pounder ones on theirs.
What about you, Ken? You got anything to add to this?
Yeah, I got a lot to add to this one.
All right.
This is kind of in my realm, but from a different direction. I'm not the mad scientist that Brian is, nor the builder that John is, obviously, but from a user standpoint and looking at it from, several different marketplaces, if we take this right back to the beginning, a muzzle device is really intended to protect the, your muzzle itself, making sure you don't ruin the crown, whether you're shooting defensively or whether you're shooting recreationally, or if you're out there competing. The opportunity for the muzzle to get foreign matter is going to happen sooner or later. And being able to protect that crown and protect the barrel itself from overpressurization, touching off around and having that barrel obstructed is huge. So, when we have, the basic, A2 type flash hider, it's on the Scalil here. Again, that gives us good flash suppression, just like, Brian was talking about, moving those gases away and changing the pattern of the gas so that we don't get as much flash. But mostly it's protecting that muzzle and protecting the shooter in case there's an instant of obstruction. If we go the other direction and we talk about, our different muzzle devices, such as these ported devices, like you guys said, these are, essentially copied from tanks and artillery. That's exactly what these things do, like was just alluded to, is they create a gigantic pressure wave. Unfortunately, that is extremely disruptive, not only to the shooter, but to anyone around them. I'm sure most of you have probably heard the term BF or buddy fucker, because that's really what it does. If you don't want to be too popular and show up on a firing line, either recreationally or to a class specifically, unless you're back in 1990s, early 2000s, when Surefire was first putting out the 2 and 3 port brakes with a tremendous amount of popularity and no suppressors to go with it. You show up with one of these, you're not going to be very popular. It just has a tremendous pressure wave. One thing that I highly suggest if you're going to be out there training with others and or shooting recreationally is to think about flash suppression. That's kind of the device you're looking for, and or what Brian was alluding to, where you could get one of the combination devices. One of my favorites for that is actually this Surefire device here, the Warcomp. Comes in 2 styles. One is closed tying, one is open. This is the open version. It does a minor amount of compensation, but mostly flash suppression, and that's really what I have it for. And I like it on my AR series. I like it on the Scars. I like it on all the AK series. I like it on the Galils. It's a good hard worker, and it transitions very well. And it'll also take suppressors and blast cans. Blast cans is a big one for this. So if you are running one of those devices that does throw off a lot of energy, blast can is your friend. So a good little test that you can do for yourself is just set up a piece of cardboard. Go ahead and take the muzzle of your rifle, of course, downrange, have it about 3 to 6 inches from that cardboard, and fire around. See what happens to the cardboard. If you end up with deviation to the face of that cardboard, then you are too close, obviously, which means that you're too close to being to other shooters and or other pieces of material. What am I talking about? Any kind of piece of architecture, whether that be vehicular architecture or actually standard architecture. So think VTAC barriers, think shooting barrels that we use for competition and for training, any and all that stuff. Yeah. I have seen many chunks of plywood of all different types being separated from itself, from 2 and 3 port type breaks being fired within 6 inches of it. I've seen some pretty nasty stuff happen to actual house architecture. And I guess you could probably imagine what happens when you touch that off interior of a car. It's glass. A huge pressure. Yeah. So anyway, good little test. Do that before you get out and train. But, I certainly suggest the flash suppression over compensation for training purposes.
Very good. Anybody else have anything to add along those lines?
Yeah, the only thing else that I would add about the utilization of brakes while you're actually pressing triggers is another good test that you can do is if you can do a little rolled over prone and watch what happens to the soil, sand, rocks, or snow. Yeah. That's right around your barrel. You get a good idea of how much shit that you're just gonna, come flying out at you or across your teammates or people that you're guarding or protecting.
Yeah,
gives you it'll open them eyes.
Yeah. Now, and I think we're generally talking generalities here for the most part. We're not talking specifically AKs, and this applies basically to any rifle that you're using. Let's talk specifics now with the AKs and muzzle brakes, the AKMs, AK-74s kind of deal. The principles are still the same, but what kind of differences in the brakes or flash hires are we seeing in a 74 versus a 47 per se? Is there really anything? Wouldn't think so, right?
I think that...
Go.
The 24 number rig does.
One of the things I notice is more exit muzzle pressure. So you have the standard pressure cartridges, 308, 30-06, stuff in that range. They tend to have more recoil. So a good muzzle brake can help tame those down. The more intermediate cartridges, 5.56, 300 blackout, 7.62, that kind of stuff, it's more directional control, if anything else.
Yeah.
Pardon?
I said the 5.45.
Yeah, 5.45. It's more directional control. There's not a lot of recoil there, but if you can keep the muzzle from really bouncing around, especially full auto or burst or something like that, it's more handy. There again, like they were saying, muzzle brakes suck if you're really close to someone, but yeah.
Brian was touching on the Dracos a little bit earlier. He was going to talk a little bit about that. Brian, you want to jump into that?
Oh yeah, I was at the Crink,
that's what it was,
same story. Yeah, a lot of people run those they're called a 4-piece Bulgarian on the front end, and they look mostly like what Lefty's holding up. They look kind of like it's a really funny, it almost looks like a big chess piece, something like that. And a lot of people don't know what their actual function is. And if you look at a crank, the gas port is really close to the end of the barrel. And dwell time is an important concept that I think we may have covered before, but it's the time during which the bullet has passed the location in the barrel where the gas port is. And so that's the start of the time. And then the end of that time is when the bullet leaves the muzzle. And obviously when the bullet is still in the barrel but past the place where the gas port is drilled, you're going to be seeing very high pressures for very brief, like microsecond levels of time getting directed up at the piston, or if it's a DI gun, back at the bolt. And the nanosecond that bullet has left the chamber, the exhaust gases are moving much, much faster than the bullet. And you'll actually see them in a particular kind of video that you can find on Smarter Every Day on YouTube. If you look up on YouTube, Smarter Every Day and suppressors, there's a very particular type of graphing you can do to show the gases. And it's amazing how much faster they are than the bullet. So what that blast can does on the front end is artificially extend the length of the barrel. But what it also does is give a volume for those gases to hang out in and kind of buffer the pressure that's going back up through the gas port, hitting the piston. And it's a big deal. And so that's why that thing's there. You might not need it at all in Las Vegas on a hot summer day, but the Russians tend to spec their stuff to work down in the -40 range. And when things are cold, and I see Ken nodding his head, so I want him to talk a little bit, if that's okay, on temperature and pressure and what that does to your ammo.
Well, real quick, did you have anything to add to the crank, Zach?
Yeah,
he's holding one up.
This is my personal PAP, and oddly enough, this one was undergassed. So most of the time they're not undergassed at all. Usually they put the booster on there more to help during sustained full auto fire, that kind of stuff. Me being myself, I needed to increase the dwell time with the gas system on this particular one. And then I also wanted, while I'm doing it, add some braking effect. So it's kind of hard to see on this one. This is a pre-production.
Yeah.
This is one of our production ones, and it actually has ports in it.
Oh, nice.
Sick.
So it has the look of the original Yugo booster, but a muzzle control, not necessarily recoil reduction, but it keeps the muzzle pointed where you want it, because these things are really jumpy. They're cool, but they're not a whole lot of fun to shoot, mainly because of how loud they are. But they're also very, very jumpy. You put this on there and it really balances the muzzle out and keeps it from bouncing around quite as much.
Very cool. I like that. All right, Ken, talk about the temperature.
Yeah, so the guys that are doing precision scope rifle stuff, this is commonplace for them. but most of the rest of us that shoot recreationally or competitively or just do some training don't necessarily think about temperature control and what it does to expansion and contraction of in different types of materials, and particularly related to ammunition. We do simple tests. We run carbine classes all year round, and some of our winter carbines or cold environment carbine courses, as we talk about, are some of our most popular. We're one of the only ones that are actually out there working in the 0 degree temperatures or below or slightly above. Simple test. Go ahead and check with a IR thermometer and see what the bolt carriage is temperature at. Also check your ammunition temperature. We ask students to show up with ammo that's been out in the cold all night. We ask for them to also have a magazine that is actually on their kit, whether that be on a belt mount or on a plate carrier or on a chest rig. And then one that's actually in their pocket and kept warm. So it came from a warm vehicle, staying as warm as it can. And we will start cold bore, and we will shoot the cold ammo cold bore and see where we end up. And going through those 3 stages of the ammo that is completely cold to ammo that is mildly warm from being close to the body, but not close enough to absorb a tremendous amount of heat, to actually being close to the body and coming out of a warm environment. We see on a 5.56 NATO anywhere, depending on the length of the barrel. So if we're looking at a 10-inch to a 16-inch barrel, again, varies by ammunition types, but realistically, we look at anywhere between 1 inch and 3/4 of an inch of deviation over those 3 different types of ammunition, meaning by temperature. The odd part is when, if we're talking about AKs specifically, 7.62 by 39 on steel case ammo can vary as much as almost 4 inches. So that deviation between warm temp and cold temp can be almost 4 inches. And I'll be doing a little white paper on this just to, be a demonstrator so folks can repeat the process. I've by no means done this scientifically. This is just range testing, but we do it every year and get out there and show the folks that there is a difference. So you do have to understand that if you need to take a precision shot, it's not going to be possible unless you're actually zeroed for that temperature on your bolt, your ammunition,
everything.
And cold.
Yeah. Has anybody else done anything similar? Any similar type testing?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a great time, I think, if you guys don't mind me hopping up on a soapbox for a little bit. I think
Sorry, I'll knock you down this time.
What's that?
Go ahead.
So I think that anybody with a pulse can now see that the expert scientific and medical community has completely discredited itself and become corrupted. And I saw this back the first time where I was like, oh shit, Houston, we have a major problem here, was when Barack Hussein Obama said the debate is over. Climate change is real. The minute that you say the debate is over, you have left science.
Yeah.
And a lot of people feel like they don't know enough to do science and that they need to study the scientific method and everything. And, I hear Ken being respectful and cautious and couching like, hey, this isn't definitive science, official data or anything. But, science, well, the guy who came up with pretty much the best part of electricity and magnetism, or the biggest contribution, was a janitor. And he was completely self-taught. And I think we are re-entering an age where citizen science is just about, I will look at citizen science probably less critically than officially, generated propaganda science at this point. And so if you guys can just at home here, if you want to check this stuff out, and I'm glad Ken's doing a paper because he has a science back. He does science professionally, as well as his fun job. And if you just can think critically and use the tools of the Enlightenment to logically think about the things that could affect what you're trying to measure, control everything you can, and then not sweat it and see if you can figure some stuff out. And then if you can get your buddy to repeat that and get similar results, that's called peer review. And the official peer review journals are it's crap at this point. It's really co-opted. So, but you guys don't need permission from anybody to go out and do science. And so I applaud what Ken's doing and would encourage people to replicate it and figure it out for themselves. And I think this white paper is great, and just talk stuff over with your buddies and think about stuff like temperature effects, because they're a big deal, and you might discover something new and educate us. So now that's the rant.
I've kind of skipped over Charles. Charles, do you have anything to jump in anytime? Don't wait for me to call you.
This is definitely more their realm for sure.
Okay, you're just waiting for the triggers, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What about you, Jay? Are you still there? Is Jay still with us?
Yeah, I'm still there.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to backpedal a little bit to go back to something, because there's one thing that that we started to tickle the tip on, and then didn't really really get whatever. So are the 4-piece brakes, right? 4-piece brakes called 4-piece because they're made out of 4 pieces. You have a body, you have a cone, the cap, and then the spring that retains it. I honestly don't even really know what those were intended to be used on. I have one on my M92, and one of the things that I experimented with lots of different types of muzzle devices on that thing, and finally settled onto the 4-piece brake after a conversation with Jim. And lo and behold, this little short barreled angry 62x39, while shooting it at night and doing my version of science, the flash mitigation is spectacular. And the way that it's made, I theorize, is that it's also working in some capacity as a linear compensator. Now, that thing doesn't recoil very much. It's not select fire. It's just me and a trigger.
Right.
But with that 4-piece brake, it's fantastic. And it's called a brake, but it's a flash suppressor. And it's really confusing it was confusing for me, and I'm a retard, but there has to be smarter people that also, because of the variance in the nomenclature, it also has to be confusing also. And that 4-piece brake, we see those here and there. There was, maybe still is, a company in Ukraine that was making super sweet ones. But right, the name is escaping me at the moment. But
go ahead. I'm just going to say that it is
in the marketplace.
It's totally not an NFA device. Like it's not.
Yeah, that's
legal.
My thoughts
legal.
Exactly, Zach. That's about probably all we should say on that
yes.
subject. Yeah.
So it's legal to own.
How do we get to NFA device from this brake thing?
Yeah, what Zach is telling you is you're right. There's some special shit there that we probably don't want to talk about too much.
No.
Yeah.
Keeping it non-NFA, to keep it that way. John, did you have anything to add to that? Are you familiar with that 4-piece?
Yeah, actually, I also have one like Jay does on my M92, and that's my everyday, quote unquote, everyday carry gun in a rifle form. For the simple fact of for me, it's done just like what Jay says. It is a awesome flash hider. It will, unless you run some of the hotter ammunition, it will pretty much obliviate all flash coming out of that thing. Of course, like pitch black, you're going to get something, but it pretty much obliviates everything in there. And it does, like he was saying, it does actually work as a brakish kind of thing. It doesn't, you don't feel anything weird of like pushing you around. Unlike some brakes or muzzle devices, you feel like they're pushing you around one way or the other when you're shooting. This one definitely does not. it does keep itself, pretty, okay, I shot here. That's where the barrel's going to kind of stay. If anything moves around, it's kind of me, the shooter, dictating that deviation.
Does it feel a little softer? Is it a little softer feel too?
It is a little softer, yeah. I mean, you take it off, you can notice it on or off. We played with it before just to see, put a blindfold on somebody and let them shoot 5 rounds, and then take it off or leave it on and let them shoot again and have them tell you, and they can tell. They're like, I don't know which one's which, but it's different.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a fact. It's a really freaky thing. In my opinion, it's of the old stuff. It's just great. It really it works as advertised, and it has some silly physics behind it, and the way that it actually functions, is really pretty cool.
What's it called?
It's a Bulgarian 4-piece.
Bulgarian 4-piece. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So one of the effects of recoil is more a physical. If you get hit by the concussive blast, that is also affecting you. It's not the gun pushing on you, but it's the air blast wave hitting you. And that break, flash hider, whatever you want to call it, does a really good job of that. A place in Florida made, I don't know if they still do, called a Barking Spider, and it was a much more advanced version of the Bulgarian 4-piece, kind of, and it's probably the most amazing flash hider I've ever seen. And there again, it's that's all I'm gonna say about that one as far as like legalities. Because
have I got a picture of it up right now?
I don't see a picture showing up right now.
Oh, okay. All right.
But anyone that's ever shot one of the Barking Spiders, it is better than a flash hider should be.
Barking Spider.
Yeah, it's a great name. Did you ever get to shoot our Soul Crusher?
I think so. Yeah.
The 4.5-inch barreled 308 HK machine gun.
Oh God.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've shot that. Yeah.
Yeah, and we had a 2-port muzzle brake on that thing. Soul Crusher was the appropriate name. It was miserable to run. And, yeah.
It was fun to watch people shoot it, though.
Oh, yeah. Everyone loved shooting it. Yeah. It sucked to be the RO. Like, you got all the muzzle blast with none of the fun.
So let's do this, because we spent a lot of time on muzzles, muzzle devices.
But we haven't even touched them.
And there's a lot more we could talk about, but we kind of want to touch on the stocks and the triggers. And I've got Charles here. He's just dying to talk about some triggers here. So I think we'll go to triggers next, and then we'll have to run through this and stocks because we got to get to listener questions too. So So let's talk about, and we'll start off with, let's start original and then work with how the triggers have evolved over the years here with the AK. John, do you want to hit on the original triggers? Standard AK triggers.
We see,
yeah,
the original triggers were basically, from what I've heard, it took the original designers of that trigger almost a year to figure it out, to make it actually work. From start to finish of, hey, we got to build a trigger, to, hey, we got a prototype running. It took them a year to do it. Which I don't know how true it is, but there's a lot of stuff going on with a trigger. It's like Charles will be able to tell you, there's a lot of stuff going on in a trigger. It's not just, 3 pieces moving around and okay, it works fine. There's some science to that stuff. So for us, the way I see it is the original trigger actually works great. It is, of course, not the best at, for competition or anything like that, but it was designed as a military style trigger. So it's got long everything. It's got a long trigger pull, long reset, because it's made for a person who probably has never been around a complicated piece of machinery other than, a horse or something like that, pulling a plow, to firing, one of the most complicated things that existed at the time. So it needed to be simple, very robust, not easy to, go off without it supposed to be going off. No issues of, I barely had my finger on there and it went off. So the original ones had to do two things. Obviously, they had to do a semi-auto and a full auto situation, which we're not going to get into for the NFA stuff. But
sure.
So to do that, they had to kind of make the best of both worlds. As time went on with the triggers and the military guns, they had to try to get them more under control. So they started, introducing rate reducers, which is basically to momentarily delay the hammer coming to hit the primer for just a millisecond to try to slow the gun down, make it a little more controllable, get some of like basically the bouncing out of the gun. And then, the newer generation stuff that comes out in like new AK-12s and 15s, they actually have their own little device inside those to slow them down as well. But they've come a long way from the original, like true AK-47 trigger to modern, the stuff you're going to see on the, overseas right now. What they have now, it's changed quite a bit. The triggers do feel better than they did in the early ones. But a lot of people are trying to get this super light trigger pull, and it needs to, have a super light trigger pull and really quick reset. Well, they weren't designed that way. So an original trigger is not going to do that. That's why these people make aftermarket triggers, so
Sure.
you can have that.
Sure. Absolutely. Now, talk about the parts, Zach, the parts of just the basic components of the AK trigger.
That's not my deal. I had a question for John.
Oh, okay. I didn't know what you were going to do. You kept raising your hand
Have
there.
you ever shot an AN-94?
Yeah.
Okay. How did the trigger on that one compare?
Rough.
I've heard basically the same.
It's because of what it's doing. You almost feel like a trigger slap.
I can see that. Yeah.
It's you feel it's not as bad as a true trigger slap whacking you, but you feel like a tension on your finger when it's firing. But it's a pretty rough to get a gun. But I mean, they're trying to do some pretty crazy stuff there.
It is a very crazy gun. Yes.
So, anybody want to add anything to that? We're going to get into some modernizations and whatnot here. So, I think everybody's pretty much familiar with the standard AK trigger. You can do
the
that.
only thing, actually, let me jump in real quick with a little ADD. The only thing that I would really add to that is that since the middle 80s, when AK imports actually started to be a thing, most of those guns were just supplied with the original triggers that they were intended to be run with as a standard comm block. When they entered the U.S. market and somebody wanted to seize a commercial opportunity, they basically just took that same trigger and copied it and changed the metallurgy a little bit to various degrees of success. And that's pretty much all that's happened until regular citizens started to really accept the AK as a usable platform for them. And they did all kinds of things. I'll skip technical details for other reasons, and experimented, did some things. Some things were great, and some things were just butt ass horrible. And John, I'm sure, can attest to that, being the fine smith that he is. And that's really where people started to hit a brick wall. And then again, the market responded as good capitalists do in a constitutional republic, where free enterprise essentially said, how can I do better? And then that's when some bigger brains like Zach's and Brian's and Charles' friends and, good companies like that, who start to think about, how can I apply science to this shit? And that's where we segue into Charles.
But before we do that, let's just talk the basic components of the trigger. It's basically 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pieces. So you got the trigger itself, you've got the hammer, you've got the disconnector, you've got the spring, You've got the 2 bolts, trigger pins, and then you've got the spring.
Pins,
7
disconnector.
7 pieces, yeah. So 7 pieces, pretty basic, pretty standard. And then, of course, the spring. We've seen modifications in the spring where they've got the twisted springs versus the standard straight springs.
Braided wound as they came from the east.
Yeah.
And I'm not aware of anything from that side of the ocean that uses the single. I don't even know what the nomenclature is. The single wire.
The Romanians did.
Really? That's cool.
Yeah, the AMD. The AIM 74 and the Polish came with single springs in them.
Oh, really?
They
That's
broke.
interesting.
They broke a lot. I mean, we see them broken a lot in the parts kits we get.
Yeah.
Far out. Didn't know that.
And like everything, like Jay just said, of course, somebody saw a commercial opportunity with the triggers, and there's a whole separate market just for the AK triggers now, and there's more and more coming out. And as I stated earlier, when we were at the event there at BDU, Epic Shoot, ran into Charles there with CMC Triggers, and they have their own specific AK trigger. So, Charles, talk about that.
Yeah, so a lot of people don't even know that we even make an AK trigger. So, we're known for our single stage drop-in triggers. We had once we really started getting a following, we had such an influx of people reach out and just said, got to do something with this AK situation. These AK triggers are just absolutely horrific. And granted, that's kind of how they were just all designed to be. Back in the day, they didn't have good machining and good ways to do the way that we can do high tolerance stuff today. And so I know there's going to be a lot of AK guys that hate me for saying this, but we pretty much wanted to design an AR trigger to put into an AK. True AK people absolutely hate that. They don't want to AR their AK.
Don't want to associate AR with AK at all, do they?
Yeah, they don't. But what we did was we took a very high tolerance, super smooth finish trigger, and we considered a modular trigger because it's a one piece, package. We don't call it a drop in just because just like what all y'all know, there's so many different AKs. There's the tolerance levels are all over the board. You can't really make a drop in trigger to work with every single AK, no matter what. So some of the triggers you actually have to do a little bit of modifications to get them to run, just depending on which AK you're actually running. So this is our traditional flat bow. That's our patented flat bow trigger design.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much just took all of our high tolerances, high polished parts on the inside, put them in a one-piece unit, stuck it inside the AK, and these triggers are by far none. I know it's going to be a little bit biased, but they are the best triggers on the market compared to anyone else that's making these right now. AOG and everybody else, they make a really good trigger, especially for the price point they come in on. But it's just a totally different beast. They don't go through the quality control system that we do. Our tolerances are insane. Every trigger is hand built and hand tested by somebody before they ever leave the shop. If a trigger comes across one of our testers' desks and he has an issue with it, he works on it until it's finally to where it actually needs to be at before it leaves and goes into packaging. So
are these adjustable?
These are not adjustable. Okay. So these are we make a 3.5 pound and a 4.5 pound. Our 3.5 pounds, not really 3.5 pounds. It's actually a little bit lighter than that. It's closer to about 2 pounds. And if any of y'all have actually shot our triggers, you'll know immediately as soon as you pull the trigger, because it's my favorite thing to do is put this thing in someone's hand at a show or at a shoot or something and let them shoot the first round, and their eyes just light up and they're like, oh my goodness, what is this? And it's just because it's everyone's so used to that gritty, long take up, just horrible AK trigger, and then they finally feel a quality trigger. They're like, wow, it's night and day difference. Super short reset. You could really run these triggers And once you learn how these things run, it's amazing.
Just super simple. Drop it in, put the pins in, and you're good to go.
Yeah, and like I said, it really just depends on which AK you have. We pretty much got 6 of the most popular AKs out there, and we reverse engineered them. We try to get it to the point to where they work with all of them. But I mean, as all y'all know, you could take 5 of the exact same brand and put them all next to each other, and every single one of them is going to have a different tolerance level on something, especially on the bolts.
Is there one that you specifically know that it doesn't play well with?
It's really a crapshoot.
Yeah. So which ones do you know it plays really well with?
So we went out. We had Century, Arsenal. We did some Sega stuff. The Kalashnikovs, we did some of those, and those all work fairly well. But again, like I said, and it really just depends. I mean, I've probably installed close to 100 of these things, and I've had to work on a big portion of them. It just really depends. I feel lucky when I get one where they just slide in and I put pins in and they're ready to go. I've even seen it to where the holes that the trigger pins go in and stamped in the receiver, they're just off by a few thousandths, and you're just fighting it. And that's one of the reasons that, we do a cassette, one-piece unit. It's all super tight tolerance with all the parts. So you can't have that fluctuation with pins and where they're at and different things. If that hammer pin is a couple thousandths forward or a couple thousandths up, it's going to act differently with the disconnector and the sear face of the trigger, and it's going to give you a totally different feel or a totally different functionality of it. So that's why we went with a one-piece cassette unit that it's no matter what, when you get it in that rifle and it's put in there, everything's exactly where it's supposed to be, and you don't have to worry about any of that.
What kind of spring are you guys using?
We're using just like a one piece. We use a rocket wire, and we've had 0 issues with anything breaking or anything like this. This particular AK is one of our show AKs, and this has our standardized AR curve. So we have this in 3 different trigger bows. We do our traditional flats that we're known for. This is our AK curve. This is our AR style curve. Then we do an AK traditional. We're about to come out with a combat curve. We have that new combat curve bow. We're going to do that in the AK as well. But this particular rifle itself, I can guarantee you it has well over 100,000 rounds put through it. And to tell you the truth, I don't even know if this thing's ever been cleaned. I've never cleaned it, and I've put several thousand rounds through it myself. And it's same part, same everything. And this is our main take to the range and go to the show demo gun.
Nice. And what are they running? How much are your triggers?
So they MSRP at $225. So they are a little bit more pricier than, like I said, than some of the competitors out there. There's not a whole lot of people out there making AK triggers. But the overall quality, if you put them back to back with everybody else, you'll come back to CMC and understand why you're spending a little bit extra money on it.
Besides me, has anyone else on here tried their trigger?
Yeah, I've shot one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I really liked it. I thought it was, like I said, I was very impressed with it.
Yeah, totally. Really good trip.
Were you shaking your head,
definitely,
Ken?
Definitely light.
Yeah, I've known Jack for a long time, ever since I was working with Sig Sauer, and I started, running ARs mostly. And we were working with CMC Triggers, fantastic. And then, a couple of years ago, I tried the AK trigger, and Charles is exactly right. As we all know, every AK is a one-off, so trying to get it to fit is a bunch of fiddling. But once you do have that matchup, it's a fantastic trigger. It truly is it's a piece of art rather than what we typically think of in AKs. But when you get around to it, Lefty, I've got a little bit about different types of triggers that we'll add.
Yeah, and that's what I kind of want to get into there. So my experience with triggers are basically just the ones that either come with them or an ALG is kind of my go-to is the AG. I really like the ALGs. But what are some other ones that are out there and that are available?
So I'll start from the basis that I've been exposed to, Lefty, and let's start with the standard, like John was talking about, and most of us are familiar with, is the standard Tapco G2. That's actually a really good trigger. It's fairly standard in the sense that it fits the traditional mill pattern, so the reliability of that trigger is much higher than some of the more fancy triggers, as you may want to call it, that we have today. The cool thing about it is you get with a guy, like John, for instance, or Brian, or I'm sure Zach. My experience was with Jim Fuller, and he showed me how to tune a standard trigger, and I still use that trigger today, and it works like a champ. My purposes are a little bit different than other people's purposes may be. And I think that your purpose or your mission has to be set to start with when you're looking at triggers. Your recreationalist, much better off with a standard trigger that has a press weight of 5 pounds and over, preferably a little bit over. Your trainer or trainee type person that may also cross over into competition, I would say going down to 4.5 is probably about as low as you really want to go. Again, that has everything to do with added stress, movement, all the other things that are going on around one that takes additional detail in order to be able to concentrate and make sure you're utilizing that trigger press properly. Particularly some of the alternative positions and being in and out of architecture. It's just way too easy to press on a 3.5 or lower poundage trigger. Mm-hmm. Your competition guys, that's where that really excels. When we have a 3.5 or slightly lower, as Charles was talking about, and have that glass type of break, that's where those split times really go down, and those folks that are running competition really take off with it. Again, I don't suggest that so much for training, even though it's tempting. I've seen way too many folks doing things they should not do on the range and other places with too light of a trigger and not realizing it. So that's general start. The Fime Group has kind of stepped it up because the G2 went away. And they're producing, I believe, 2 different types of triggers, which again are going back towards that more standard, and they can be tuned quite nicely. They have a reasonable break as they are. It's a nicely made trigger. I like them both, but that can be tuned a little bit better. And if anybody can find some of the old G2s around, whether it's a single hook or a double hook, whatever meets your pattern, I would buy 1 or 2, stick them away. It's worth having. So then I'm going to
interrupt you right there because
Yeah.
I don't want to forget to ask this, because I know probably a lot of the listeners are wanting to hear about this too. But you talked about you learned how to tune a trigger. How do you tune the trigger?
I am not that guy, so I can teach you how to do it, but I don't have all the knowledge behind it like John would, or Brian would, or Zach would. So I'm not gonna try to be that guy.
Zach's like, no, he's waving it off.
Well, yeah, no, I actually have the same response as Zach, that I don't do that. And Jim actually taught me as well how to tune a trigger.
Yep.
And
but Brian, you are the consummate teacher.
Well, I actually don't think it's good
things.
practice in general. The way we do sort of tune our ALG triggers that go out, every trigger an ALG trigger has to be tuned to be installed, and for the particular mission set that we're building for, it's the best one available. The surface finishes, CMC they do an amazing amount of work on their triggers with, as Charles mentioned, the polishing. The amount of labor and skill it takes to polish well is a real thing. And so we polish, we stone the faces, all the faces where metal touches metal on an ALG. We take an EDM, like electronic digital music, except it means something else in this context. Polishing stone, it's probably 1/4 inch by 5/8 of an inch by 6 inches long, and we like it about a 300 to 320 grit. And this takes a lot of practice. It's a little bit like learning how to hand sharpen a knife without the aid of something that's constraining the angle of the bevel. You got to get the stone dead nuts flat on these very small faces, and this is where paying for that up front from another company is probably smart money. But yeah, you polish those faces until they're shiny, silvery, smooth, as opposed to the ridiculous surface finish that's on the ALG when it shows up. They basically rarely function if you don't do the stunning. You can shoot it in.
Right
and
there.
I love Geisley and ALG. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
Like, great companies. I buy a lot of their stuff.
I think what Brian was trying to get at was, you can tune a trigger, but should the everyday average person do that?
No.
Absolutely not.
How about no?
So you got to understand that our listeners are above average. We have above average listeners here, and very advanced for the most part. And so a little tip and trick here and there on. I mean, you don't have to go into specifics, but just what goes into tuning a trigger. So there's a stone.
Okay, let me actually try a Tourette's retake on everything I just said before.
I'm not going to edit that. I'm going to leave it all in, but that's fine.
Okay, well,
I'm leaving it all
I
in.
love you, ALG. You guys are awesome. And but one thing that you can do that's pretty low risk is there is a company called Cratex, Cratex, that makes a very fine line of rubberized polishing stones. It's basically rubber with silicon carbide or aluminum oxide, something like that embedded in it. So imagine like a pencil eraser that's got grit in it. If you get you can get very fine and very angry versions of those Cratex wheels, and they come in two flavors, some that are dark colored and some that are white. I'm not speaking of the white ones, even though I love those as well for different things. For serious metal removal, the white ones are awesome, but they make a softer green, brown, reddish, a couple different flavors, and you stick them on a little Dremel arbor, and they very slowly take material away. And I still agree with Charles that the everyday, most of us peasants shouldn't be doing this. However,
our listeners are stubborn, and they're going to figure out a way to do it anyway. So we might as well give them some good tips and tools that they
there
can
it
use,
is. So yeah, Cratex wheel is probably a better idea to buy than these EDM stones. And but I think it's called Boride Abrasives is the company that I get the EDM stones from. And for home gunsmiths out there, they are an awesome tool. So Cratex wheels and Boride Abrasives EDM polishing stones. They're about $3 a piece if you buy a box of them.
Perfect.
A little bit of lapping compound works well too. So
hurt me. Talk dirty. Yeah.
If you do it right, you gotta be careful with it. You can get real carried away with it. But I mean, lapping compound's a good option. If you're just gonna be, I am nervous telling people to whip out the Dremel because I have seen absolutely horrific stuff come back.
Oh, yeah.
People getting the Dremel out.
That Dremel can get away from you, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Curtis Hallstrom of VSO. Well, either Jaeger or Curtis came up with this, but they said that you should have to have an SOT before you're allowed to touch a Dremel in a gun.
Yeah, I agree with that. Jay or John, you guys have anything to add to the tuning of a trigger?
You do. Brian was saying basically it's your contacts. Anywhere it hits the disconnector or the actual trigger itself, it needs to be as smooth as possible, so that way you get rid of that crunchy, grabbing sand kind of feel. But you do have to be careful because you can go too far to where you either get it so it no longer holds it in position anymore, and you get a runaway gun, or that it's just so light that you can't really control what you're doing.
Yep.
There's several manufacturers out there that make triggers that really kind of make it for the market, not for the quality. I'm trying to be politically correct here. That could really look at things a little differently to make a better product than they are. Because people, it's just like, when you buy those things that you clean your ears with, what are they called? Everyone calls them Q-tips. They're not. They're, cotton swabs, but they've got the name. So everyone wants them, even though there's better things out there.
Gotcha.
That's what Brian was trying to touch on is there's better things out there than what the name brand is. And, don't get carried away just because your buddy says it's the world's greatest thing. Try to do a little research because everyone's got their opinion. I mean, triggers are a very, in my opinion, personal thing. I I do not like ALG triggers. And none of my guns, except for one that still has one in it, none of them have them. They all have other triggers from other manufacturers. I happen to like the Tapco G2. Okay. I've got several, and I've hoarded them away when I heard they were going bye-bye. I went on the buying spree and bought as many as I could find, and I stashed them away in my little secret drawer of parts. And I have those in a lot of my guns because I like how it feels. I like the curve of the trigger. I know what it's going to do.
ALG is the one that beats carriers up, and that was going to be my last rant, is that they use tool steel that's Rockwell 60, and the proper metallurgy is sitting down in the 30s. So that is a problem. However, I happen to love, okay, after trashing ALG, I'll say that is my favorite trigger for as much as I hate them. And people, before I got into pro gun building, people would always go like, ooh, what did you do to this trigger? You polished it beautifully. And I shot it. And so the really shooting your gun is a way of polishing it that That's true. Will not screw up. And I highly recommend that method, because if you do it right, you're going to be a better shooter at the end as well.
Yeah. So all that said, it's better to send it to a professional like these guys if you're not handy or you've never done anything like that before. You don't have the proper tools. So disclaimer, yes, it's better to send it to John or Brian or Aklys or just buy a CMC. And then you don't have to worry about doing the polishing. But yes, just shooting it, going out and actually going to the range and using it, you're going to see that trigger is going to start smoothing out over time. Anyway, so if you want to be patient and go through that method, then that's probably the best way to do it.
One thing you have to watch out for is some of them are case hardened, and it's not very thick. And if you wear through the case hardening, polishing it or anything else, you're back down to the soft base metal.
Yeah. And again, if you get into doing it yourself, you get into liability issues too. So you get that thing so light or so jacked up or whatever, and you take it out and you're starting getting these discharges when you don't want them, then you're going to have issues, and you may have liability of shooting someone or something like that, or a car or something. So definitely send it to a professional when you're doing something that precise, because that is a very precision type tuning that you're doing with that trigger. So CMC Triggers website, cmctriggers.com.
Yes, sir. That's it.
So you can go check them out there. So you guys can go check those out. And it just so happens one of you lucky leadheads is going to win one of those this episode. So I don't know. I think we should probably just go ahead and get to the listener questions, and we may not get to stocks. We'll just answer the questions as they are in the listener questions and deal with the stocks. How about that?
Is now a good time for Jay's Ukraine update, or do you want to do that after?
Yeah, let's do that.
I don't want to let it go too long before hearing from him here.
No, we definitely want to discuss the Ukraine. So while I'm looking up the questions here from listeners and getting those sorted, I want to get everybody's take on what's going on in Ukraine, and then specifically what you've been seeing as far as the weaponry that's being used, the small arms, and then what you've heard as far as the United States and other countries, what they're sending, because I saw somewhere where Adams Arms has sent a shipment of ARs to them, and I've only seen AKs and AK-74s over there.
No, it's actually a lot more than that.
Yeah. Take it, Jay.
All right, I'm just going to have to dance around this really lightly about how the government contracts are working right now and what types of things they're actually trying to put out for solicitation, but it's not just AKs, straight up. It's just not. What they're going to be introducing in theater is painting an actually a pretty interesting question. And most of this information is actually open source. You just have to know where you can go and view these open solicitations. So, yeah, disclosure. Anyways, the first and foremost, before I lose Wi-Fi, hold on, let me walk back. First and foremost, no one knows what's going on. All right. So the only constant that you can actually be certain of is that you are being lied to by the most sophisticated propagandists on both sides right now. So anything that you think you know about what's actually going on is conjecture, because there is no truth. Even if you're standing there, doesn't matter where you are in the Ukraine or just anywhere there around it, there is no truth to be had. So what small arms we see is a snippet of the really excellent OSINT work that we can find on Twitter and Telegram and various other, forms of, open communication, whatever you want to call it, right? But if you look back onto YouTube before it gets scrubbed this week, you'll see that after that coup, the citizenry started buying guns, and you're going to see like all kinds of stuff there. And to be able to support that, there's going to be solicitations to be able to provide material support for that. But there's all kinds of in theater stuff. Like right now, I'm really super interested. I'm not entirely sure what it's called, but Ukraine has a version of the Tavor that just looks bitchin'. I don't know if it's cool or not. I don't know if it works as well. I doubt it. But it looks like IMI had something to do with it. But my Tavor, as usual, is sick. And this thing looks a lot like that, but it's not.
I'll ask Jeremy, see if he's got any info on that.
Yeah, I mean, he'd be the one to know.
Yeah.
For sure. But it's not an IMI gun, but it's made in the Ukraine, and it's just really, really close. And then the PKM, because PKMs are pretty much the most awesome thing in the entire world, is what I've been paying attention to the most.
Hey Jay, just to back you up a second, there's a picture that I meant to send you. Did you mean Tavor or did you mean Galil?
No, Tavor.
Really? Because I've got a pic I'm going to share with the group here in a second as soon as I can get it onto my desktop. It's on my phone, of something that has the back end of a Galil, and it's running Stanag mags. It's a 5.56. It has a mag well, but it doesn't look like anything I've seen before. So I'll pop that up in a second. Just wanted to check. Thanks.
All right. Yeah, no sweat. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if there was some surplus OG Galils there. And it wouldn't even really surprise me if there was any of the Ace products, but those would have come from side channels, or they were civilian guns or special unit or something like that. But no, these bullpups have been showing up in pictures all over the place, and I just think it's super bitchy. So I don't know. Well, where else do you want to go with this? This goes down like a really.
So Ken's got probably some insight that he might be able to share with us.
Yeah, so I'm paying attention to a lot of the stuff Jay is too. And one thing I saw, Jay, that you would, Doug, is I did catch a Valmet the other day, which
really?
Coming down out of Finland.
Cool.
Yep, that was pretty cool. But what's actually caught my eye, which I would like to translate to the rest of us, no matter where you are in the world, are the shotguns that I'm seeing. I'm seeing quite a few 12 gauge defensive shotguns, which is a very, very versatile tool. And a lot of people just don't give them the respect anymore that they used to have. And I would highly suggest, if you're not working with a shotgun, to get on it. Start working with a shotgun again. They are a tricky beast, but incredibly versatile. And if we translate over to our side of the pond here, it is typically a firearm that you can travel with. And they're typically not regulated as a lot of semi-automatics, pistols, SBRs, whichever as you want to call it, stabilized brace type firearm. Your shotguns are not regulated in the same way. So you can move from state to state. The ammunition's available just about everywhere, and they're highly, highly effective in the hands of somebody that knows how to use it. So I'll leave it there, but I am seeing quite a few defensive shotguns in theater there as well in the photos.
And when they opened up the armories to the civilians, they were handing out what looked like Benellis and 103s.
Yep.
So I guess that speaks to that, directly.
Yeah, I agree, Jay. I saw some what looked like might be Remington 870 series, whether made European or not, but it had a similar look to those as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't find that surprising.
What about you other guys? You guys seeing anything? I've seen some SVDs, some sniper rifles. I've seen of course, the AK-74 has been seeing a lot of those. I've seen some of the Dracos. What? Go ahead.
A lot of 74s.
Yeah.
Like a lot more 74s than I was expecting.
Someone sent me some pictures, and it looked very much like the Helgen. So I'm guessing probably the military Croatian version, whatever that is. I don't remember.
It's called the Hellion?
Mm-hmm. The new one just released by Springfield.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. And the pictures that we're seeing, the civilian guns that they have, they're looking awful new and fresh and like never used.
Very new.
They're looking like really crisp.
Yeah.
Fresh.
Yeah.
Some pictures of some ARs, obviously in sporting condition, and with cans on most of them. I'm seeing a bunch of that as well.
Seen that too.
Can we hope to see these coming over here after this debacle is over?
No.
No, they're not. None of those are going to make their way back to America.
I don't think that you're going to see any significant uptick in importation, maybe for a very long time.
I'd like a UK 2000, but
yeah, definitely.
I've seen a couple pictures of some really old stuff. They've probably been pulling out of museums and using.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, I've seen a couple of DP 27s, and then also a Maxim.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Just like, dang, they dusted that thing off.
Very cool.
Well, they pulled tank traps out of the museum and set them up in Kiev or Kyiv. That's what the new word is. The new speak is Kyiv because Kiev is the Russian pronunciation, and we're supposed to hate them now.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Speaking of Maxim, we've got a 1917 Costa Rican Maxim at the shop in 7.62 by 54.
Nice.
Why didn't you bring that for show and tell, Zach?
That's a heavy bastard. Screw that thing.
That would have been awesome.
So can you guys see this photo that I've posted up here and shared? And if so, what in the F is that thing that's got a Galil rear stock on it? Or stock.
Did you send it to group chat?
No, I've shared the screen.
Oh, I'm not seeing the share screen.
If you can see my
dude, oh man, I'm losing it because I saw that pic and I was wondering too, and I was like, oh man, is that a SIG? And then it's like, no, it's not a SIG. And then I had to do a Google image search on it, and it's something Northwestern European.
Okay, that makes
I
some.
know
I mean that
Is
receiver
anybody
looks
seeing it?
very
I'm not seeing
German
it.
or Czech. If you look at the charging, the top of it looks like a VZ58, and the rear of it looks like a Galil, and the bottom of it looks like something a Nazi would make. And so, SIG is a decent German SIG that it's very German looking. And let me see if I can.
I wish I could remember what that thing's called, man.
It's all our listeners. Maybe we can have a prize for. Okay, Marty, it's in the group chat now.
Okay,
it's a really funny looking gun.
Let me.
I mean, it
share
looks
my
badass.
screen.
I want one, but but that looks like 5.56, right? I don't know Stenag mags real well, but that's what that looks like to me.
The one at the center?
Yeah.
Well, there's three of them.
Yeah.
The three guys in the front have them.
Three guys.
And then there's a PKM in the back right, I believe. And then in the back left, I think there's another one of whatever these guns are.
Yeah.
They're pretty cool looking.
It sure has the look of an FN.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like with that handguard, you know what I mean? Look very Belgian.
Very cool.
Their 5.56 version, I don't remember the exact nomenclature, but it has a very similar outward look to the FN.
Yeah, but see the charging handle too? Like
Yeah.
that looks so VZ to me, and I don't know FN guns very well, so FN might be doing that too, but it's like all nations claim it as their own or something.
Right on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like, SIG and FN had a baby.
Yeah, exactly. Well, with Galil in the rear there.
Right.
It's just weird. And it's bulky Galil. It's not like a SIG. See, SIG didn't make that hinge. SIG has their own, they adapted the Galil geometry, but it's their own deal. That bulky thing right there looks very Israeli in a good way. I've got great admiration for IWI. There's a thing that Jay keyed in on with Kyiv. There's all these stories going around about people beating up on Russians and surgeons in Germany denying them service and stuff. And I'm reminded of the first time I took a direct action class was with this CIA guy. And we were talking one night, and he was awesome. He was the good kind of CIA guy. And he was talking about, because I had recently fled California, and everybody was calling me a commie. And we were talking quietly, and he said, I can tell that you love liberty dearly. And I know a lot of people who have fled communist regimes, and they typically love freedom way more than people that were born with it. And the Russians that are here because they love America and love liberty. And I don't think any of our listeners are inclined to be mean to Russians, but people that were born in Russia or born in Vietnam or born in China and came here, it's because they want what we have in a good way. They want liberty. They want self-determination. And so I would encourage,
and a good example of that, Brian, is that episode we did with Bandito Bill and
and
Oleg. The guy did our Oleg. Yeah, Oleg.
Yeah.
Great episode. Yeah. The two guys who came from two different communist regimes that, you could tell.
Sonny's another one. He's
Sonny,
more American than most other folks.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And he is technically Lithuanian, which has been bad for him everywhere. We don't need to go into it, but lots of these folks have a rough time. And one thing that isn't talked about in the American press is that Slavs are viewed as subhuman by a lot of Western Europe. And there's a deep amount of racism there against Slavs, and which includes Russians, some Poles, not all, some Lithuanians. It's complicated. I don't know all about it, but I do know that they get treated like garbage. And so that's an important thing to understand. And obviously that's bullshit.
Yeah. So how do you think, as far as the invasion has gone so far, as to what your anticipations were when it originally started? Did you think that Russia was just going to go in and have no problem at all? Or did you think that they would meet this kind of a resistance?
I figured anyone's going to resist. I mean, there's no way, you're going to just let a foreign government come in there and try to mow you over, even if you have to run at them with a rock and throw it at them.
I don't think Russia thought that.
Tell you, what you can and cannot do. So I could see, they're going to hit some sort of resistance, whether it is as simple as, a do-it-yourself Molotov cocktail kit, or, throwing a rock or shooting a gun or building a tank trap or, some crow's feet or something. You're going to try to do something to hinder or kill your enemy that's coming into your town and, screwing up your way of life. Whether, I'm sure there's some resentment, against them, for other reasons before all this started happening. The eastern side of the Ukraine, a lot of them are fairly Russian people. They speak Russian. There are a lot of them are from Russia. So I'm sure some of them, were not opposed, quote unquote, to it. But, when somebody comes into your thing and starts trying to kind of bully you around, and your, the niceties of going to the grocery store and picking out your favorite, beer is lost, and all of a sudden, you can't watch your TV because the power is out and stuff like that. People start becoming very agitated and aggressive towards who might be causing these problems for their daily life.
Yeah, and propaganda-wise, James kind of touching on it, is like you can't believe either side of what's going on. What do you think?
They're going to lie to make themselves look good.
Yeah. What do you think is probably the biggest lie that you've recognized so far that you find very hard to believe?
The total number of functional military things that Russia was supposed to have.
Yeah. You believe that they actually don't have that they're.
I don't know why they wouldn't be using it if they did.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect time to go demo it out, see if it works.
Yeah.
Right. Why is the power still on? Why haven't they seized infrastructure?
Yeah.
Why haven't they attained command and control? Why is the airspace still being loitered with Turkish drones? Why are their cell phone signals still getting out? Why is their internet still functioning? Like, none of this shit makes any sense.
Yeah.
Let me be the asshole. I'm not saying I believe this, but let me be the asshole. As far as I know, Caesar was in the Gallic Wars was the first guy to talk up his enemy. And he would talk about how fierce all of these Huns were and everything, and that they fought really hard, but that Caesar prevailed. And that, he obviously was talking himself up. It was a very Trumpian thing to do, very brilliant. If Russia came in shock and awe, I think what they might be doing is strategic, because they're at least 10 times bigger than Ukraine by military force, right? So if they go in and squash them, that looks bad on social media. What's on right now is, to sound callous, great TV, and I'm not watching it for the reasons you guys have already stated. Not much anyway. And so I think that they might be trying to look weak and barely win. And I'm not saying that I believe that 100%, but that is a counter argument for why they're moving slow. At the hacker conventions in Vegas every year, it got to be known among the guys who knew that you did not take your phone there, because the Russians were so good at crawling all of it for data and spoofing them. And so I just don't buy this incompetence personally.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. I likely am wrong. I don't know. That's an idea.
I mean, they're already the bad guy. So they can only play so much of not so much the bad guy as far as what the world perceives them as.
Yeah, that exactly. And how you accomplish that, you could think of a bunch of different ways to do that. Some of them good, most of them bad.
I think Ken knows more than he's saying, but that's okay. Let's get to listener questions.
I'm just going to leave it this, Lefty. I think that you're seeing what you are meant to see. That's it.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's go to listener questions now, unless anybody else has anything else to say about that. And there is a stock question here. Here's one about a trigger. Has anybody tried out the ELF AK trigger? ELF.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
And what are I guess they want your opinion on it. Corey Brown, what's your opinion on it?
The newest one that came out, we got sent one to try out. It needs work. It's way fat. The trigger is technically fatter than the trigger guard.
Wow.
So if you slid your hand down the trigger guard, you're going to hit the trigger.
Oh, sheesh.
It's that wide.
That's not good.
It's cool. It's got roller bearings. It's got its own trigger, its own hammer spring. But I'm not sold on it. It's not for me. We had some issues with it, which, I mean, they're prototyping and trying to get it ironed out, which I understand. Anyone who builds a part's got to send it out for beta testing, get the shit beat out of it, and see what happens. but it's got some teething issues, and I hate the fact how wide it is. It's too wide for me. Yeah, when it's outside my trigger guard, I'm good.
Gotcha. So there you go. There's an honest opinion from a guy who knows his stuff. Anybody else used it? No? Okay.
Not their new stuff.
Dickie the Third wants to know, are adjustable gas blocks on AKs a trend or here to stay?
I would say they're probably here to stay because, it does give you options if you're, playing with your ammo. If you're jumping between suppressed and not suppressed, yes, it does help. Because you could, basically, quote unquote, overgas the shit out of it and then dial it down so that it doesn't beat your face off when you shoot the gun suppressed and then open it back up to be unsuppressed. So I would say they're definitely here to stay. The adjustable gas pistons are here to stay. They do go onto a gun and you can get kind of the best of both worlds without having to really sit down and tune the gun to particular loads and everything.
P-Man 301 asks, there are some crazy looking massive Russian muzzle devices that look like suppressors but stents. My question is, what the hell are these and why? Do anybody know what he's talking about there?
I believe I've seen what he's talking about. I don't know that that's what this is, but I am aware of muzzle devices that are slaved to electronics, and the internals of those things can actually steer the bullet by many MOA, and they work. And I don't believe anything is available in the civilian market in the US, but I know it's a real thing. And the Russians have probably been working on it too. And what you can do with them is insane. It's like hours of MOA that you can steer a bullet that way.
Ooh.
That's crazy.
So if you're moving in a vehicle and you have a drone that's painting where you want to hit and giving you that telemetry back, you just have to be within, let's say if you're 100 yards out, and you aim within 50 feet of that target, you get a bullseye. I know it sounds like science fiction. I know.
Sounds like magic.
Yeah. Yep. Well, Arthur C. Clarke said that any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And so, yeah, you got it on the head.
Arms of Acadia ask, some U.S.-made fire control groups can cause the bolt carrier tail to become peened prematurely. Is this issue cosmetic, or will it eventually cause malfunctions? What's your recommendation, or what's your recommended FCG for general purpose shooting? I gotta put my glasses on to read these. So, some U.S.-made fire control groups can cause the bolt carrier tail to become peened prematurely. Is this issue cosmetic, or will it eventually cause malfunctions?
I haven't seen it actually make a gun not work. I've seen some pretty beat over ones, and the gun functions just fine. No issues.
So in your experience, cosmetic?
Yeah, to me, I would say it's cosmetic. I never seen. Maybe somebody else has seen something different, but I've never seen it get to the point. I mean, get to the point to where it doesn't, the gun doesn't work or function correctly.
Yep. That's my experience as well, that, yeah, nobody likes it, but it's hard to call it a problem. That horn that's sticking out the back of the bolt carrier is what cocks the hammer. And so that's my earlier mentioned frustration, is that if you don't get the metallurgy right, you're going to do that. And yeah, I agree with John. It's cosmetic, and it irritates me to no end because it's really easy to fix.
Do you want to?
That's a big side there, buddy.
Is that something you want to give them tips on how to fix, or is that something they should just send you guys to fix? Another one of those type.
No, the trigger company needs to fix it. They're using the wrong alloys.
Gotcha.
It's too damn hard.
Buckman Blake. Anybody making 308 AKs anymore? Or any spare mags for them? I have an older Mitchell that came in country in a small window.
The Yugos are
county
or we're doing a 308 again, so they're going to have product support for that. And then there was another company that I want to say was CSS. I might totally be wrong on that, but it's some 3-letter combination that might be something similar to that. They also make mags for M1As, and they're really super similar.
Yeah,
So,
CSS makes stuff for, it's like they make one for everything. I don't even know the gentleman's name. I'd love to shake his hand. On Instagram, it's Charlie Sierra Papa Echo Charlie Sierra.
Oh, man,
and they are awesome, and they're made in the US. Yeah, they got a couple, they're not like, they're sheet metal, and so you may want to go over them. That Cratex product I was talking about earlier, that's a really safe use for that. However, this gent is doing the Lord's work by making mags for guns that are hard to get mags for.
Yeah.
Very good.
So IWI Galils, man.
Boom.
Mustang Perry, is the crank the only AK that needs a muzzle device to have proper pressure in the gas system? Is the rear trunnion an easy piece to replace? I have a flat rear trunnion and would like one with a Picatinny attachment.
That's a lot of questions.
Yeah,
I can go back.
Trunnion replacement, if it's one of those things. Can I do it myself? Well, anyone could do anything pretty much if they take their time. But you have to have a press because you got to crush the rivets, or some right way of doing crushing rivets. You can pull it out, put one of those JMac ones in there, and they have those 1913 rails. You can bolt on the back there, so they could do that. But I mean, is it easy to do? Yeah, if you know what you're doing and you take your time, yeah, you can do it.
It's not a super spendy job from a labor standpoint. So sending it out to John or Josh at Lee Armory, somebody like that, you're not going to be out a lot of money. We make a single piece as well, that if the receiver is halfway right, it's going to drop right in, on the same rivet pattern as an AKM. But that can be a real issue with the rear trunnions, is like, gosh, the Polish barrel is different from the AKM, is different from the 74, is different from the Draco. And so there is some fitment there. And then if your receiver is like 1.5 millimeters thick instead of 1 millimeter, that could cause issues in certain places as well. What John said is 100% correct. And there's devils in details.
T. Williams, 1924. More of a training question, but my work gun is an M4, and it seems like every time I get time to shoot one of my 1775s, the first couple of rounds surprise me. So would you recommend a new shooter start on the excellence of the ALG, or start with a good factory 5 to 6 poundish trigger?
I would start with a training class.
Agreed.
I'd start with a training class. That's not a firearm issue. That's a shooter issue.
There you go.
There's no substitute for training.
Not at all. Not at all.
It's true. And more direct to that gentleman's question, I mean, I absolutely agree with our panel here. But direct to his question, he should most likely be on a standard trigger that's 5.5 or greater.
If it's surprising him that much, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if it's surprising you on that first shot, it's too light for you. And more training, more time on the gun, more time on the trigger system itself. You need to go to definitely a heavier trigger pull for a short period of time until you get more comfortable with it.
I think more probably what he's trying to relate to is that he's at work. He's got the M4, which he probably doesn't have a nice aftermarket trigger in that. So to keep it consistent, he would need to change his triggers out, I would think, to get the heavier pull.
Not to jump in on Ken, because he is absolutely the subject matter expert here. But this is this is just a being behind the gun thing.
Yes.
That's all that this is. This is be behind the gun. The more that you're behind the gun, the better.
Yeah. And it sounds like he doesn't get a lot of time to shoot it. So there you go. That makes perfect sense.
Dry fire. Get some snap caps and dry fire.
After my own art, totally. Yeah, dry practice will solve almost all of that. There is a slight difference, at least with the ALG. The way the trigger resets between when it's actually being shot and when it's been racked, those positions can vary slightly. And so a follow-on shot can actually be a tiny bit different from that first one that you pull off. But dry practice will get you 95% of the way there with that issue. That what I'm speaking of is a few percent effect. The only reason I know it's there is because with that polishing issue, occasionally I would send a gun out that was fine, and the way I shot it, there was no issue. Every now and then, a customer would say, hey, the gun isn't resetting. And for whatever reason, the way they were pulling the trigger back, when the hammer reset, it was hitting a different part of the disconnector than it was when I was shooting it. And so there are differences there between dry fire and live fire. However, again, 95% the same.
I'm trying to find some stock questions here. Let's see. Mike Trejas Jr. Can one of you recommend it's a muzzle device for the 12 gauge AK? Also, where can I find wood furniture for stamped receivers? You may know where you can find
Kalash wood.
Kalash wood.
Yeah, make nice stuff.
And owned by awesome people.
Roger that.
Where are they located? You know?
No, I don't, but so what? It's America.
All right. That was Mike Trejas. Here's one. If Mr. Kalashnikov was alive today and was handed a modern AK-100 series with Zentco furniture, do you think he would approve?
No. He hated any of the guns being modified.
Yep.
He was, or as a whatever, honestly, I do not speak Russian, so I don't know exactly what he was saying. But as I've heard, he thought anything other than the way he designed it was wrong.
He would say, "Niet."
I'll actually double down on that. Just from actual personal experience, speaking to Mr. Glock, he had the same exact response related to alternating the grip angle, alternating the grip, the stippling, anything like that. So he shut that down immediately as well. So I imagine as a designer, I totally agree with what he said.
Very good. Let's see. Has anybody tried the binary AK trigger? Kenneth H. McGee wants to know. I had a couple of questions on a binary.
It is a great way to shoot your friend. Well, the biggest problem I have.
$500 too.
Yeah, so too. You're in binary mode. The trigger is pulled. You got to stop shooting. You got to put the gun on safe. How do you do it? You can't. Every shooter is going to jump off the trigger. If something happens, they're going to jump off the trigger. Bang! You just shot your friend because the gun's going to fire again. Okay, so they say, all right, you got your head attached to your shoulders. You're going to put it on safe. Well, you can't. So you have to slowly let up on the trigger, very lightly, pull it into the non-binary position, get it to go in that position, then let up on the trigger completely, and then put it on safe. Sounds perfect. Nothing will go wrong.
No bueno.
So there you go.
I'm not a big fan of them. I mean, it's a cool thing. I know people, love it, and it's like a machine gun.
It's a gimmick.
But the fact you can't let, the number one thing when something goes wrong or there's an situation, everyone jumps off the trigger. It's what we've always done. Well, if your trigger's down and you jump off the trigger, it's going to fire again. You got a problem.
I'll also add that our Smith hates putting those in.
Yeah.
The finickiness and the difference between every AK, they have to be fit as well. And he absolutely hates doing those.
Here's one. Taylor Zach 787 What type of wood is used in the stock and handguard on AKs? It seems Bulgarian 74 blonde furniture dings and dents easier than Romanian wood. I'd say there's probably all kinds of different woods that they use, huh?
Actually,
Yeah, I mean, I know that Chinese use a way different wood than like the Russians are very plywoody-ish kind of wood. Same with the Romanians. It's almost like a plywood.
It is plywood.
It is plywood. Yeah, it's going to be whatever they can get in stock, I'm sure.
Everyone's wood is different.
Yeah.
Hey, now.
That's why they make pills, huh? Let's see. Doc Dow 64. What suppressor brake combo do you recommend for the AKM? Are there any additional changes you recommend to optimize the AK being suppressed? Guess they're talking maybe about gas systems and stuff.
Probably.
I may be biased.
Yeah. There's a lot of good ones out there, and you guys definitely make some of the great ones. The biggest thing to start out with is make sure you got a concentric bore. Not every AK is meant to take a suppressor, and that's really where you should start.
We've been playing with this mount here that screws into the 1 3/8 by 24 thread that's very popular now. It muzzle indexes off of the big 24 millimeter and 25 millimeter threads and stuff that a lot of the front sights have.
Oh, okay.
So long as you have a big enough bore, you can have a little bit of non-concentricity with it, and then that helps with the perpendicularity if you can square that face up.
Neat.
Let's see. This might be a good question. Peter Wiktorski. I have a bone stock washer that I bought in 2008. It is one of the models with the attachment point for optics. How reliable is this setup, and what mounts do you recommend for using a red dot? Also, I will need to get a new stock or find a cheek riser to be able to properly use it. Or will I? He said, will I need a new stock? Or okay, that's a question. Anybody familiar with that one?
Yeah, I'm pretty familiar with that one. I mean, anybody else want to touch it, go right ahead.
Jump off, Jay. Go for it.
You're on it. Do it.
All right. In terms of that, there's a couple decent ways and some better ways of mounting optics that way. The only way that I really like is RS Regulate. With that, you're going to be able to functionally adjust because their thing is relatively modular. So as soon as you get whatever it is that you're going to mount onto that washer, you can then figure out how you're going to move the gun to your head, and then it's in that moment that you'll decide whether or not you're going to have to do anything with a riser or changing the furniture. But you won't know until you get that thing mounted first. But mount it low and keep it as low as you possibly can. And if anything looks like it's coming up off the dust cover, you don't want it. And Scotty's really good at making stuff that sits real low.
Cool. Anybody else?
It's actually the best one out there from our experience. We've seen a lot of different brands and manufacturers come through training, and most of them will stay on the gun, but not every single one of them will repeat zero like RS Regulate will. And as Jay was talking about the modularity to be able to fit the different pattern guns, Scott's got a different upper, what they call it's the upper section that mounts to the actual mounting section that will match up to just about any optic or any situation that one would be looking for. I would definitely go that route.
Anybody else? Richard NLMB. Question for M13 Industries. He says, I love the post you made a while back with a KR103 you tore down for an AK-12 build. What were some of the problems or nuances you ran into with the AK-12 that you hadn't experienced with traditional AK builds?
I guess he means in the conversion from one to the other.
I think that's probably what I was asking, yeah.
Well, there's modifications you got to do to the barrel. You got to bring the front journal, the very front journal by the muzzle, that back a little bit more, about 46 thousandths, I think, if I remember correctly, farther back to go for their muzzle device. The gas block is exactly the same location, so that's not a problem. You do have to drill the hole in the front of the receiver for the handguard location, for their mounting, the little mounting pin that goes through. You have to weld the gas tube to the front trunnion. And then in the back, you have to cut it for obviously a 5.5 folding trunnion. Let's see what else. You have to put the reinforcement plate for the pistol grip. Well, that's basically it.
Okay. And if you have more questions, you can get in touch with John. Go to their website, M13 Industries, and you can contact him there.
Yep.
Let's see. Let's do a couple more here, and then let's give some cool stuff away. Ryan.
Hey, and I'm sorry, guys. I'm out of time. Got to go home and help out here. So
let's
thanks
do
for
this.
a great show to everybody.
Before you leave, pick a winner for your muzzle breaks.
Oh,
Are
shoot. I don't have it up. Sorry, I'm drawing a blank. Just pick them at random with my compliments. I hope whoever wins them enjoys them.
All right. There you go.
All right.
Brian, thanks so much. Occam Defense Solutions. I wanted you to tell us what's new and exciting, but we'll get you next time.
Yeah. We're machining sights and gas blocks, adjustable gas blocks, our own. Thank you guys all for your patience. We're having supply chain issues on one part that I have on good authority is getting cut next week. And so we're very close to shipping the production run of those. So yeah, that's the big haps is sights and gas blocks and all kinds of awesome. So cool. Thanks again, everybody. Charles,
thanks,
wonderful
Brian.
to meet you.
Talk to you
same,
soon.
Brian. We'll talk soon.
Sounds good. Take care, all.
Let's just go ahead and pick winners. Let's pick some wieners. Is anybody on any of the social media right now? Of the questions that I asked, what did you guys think was the best question of the ones that I just asked? And we're going to give them, they're going to win the 10-pack of AK mags from Century Arms. U.S. Palm. Anyone.
I'm looking.
I'm just saying, of the questions that I just asked, which question did you think was pretty good?
Well, the one that involves me, of course. Jeez.
Okay, well, since you're the one speaking up there, let's see. That was... His name was Richard _NLMB. Email talkinglead@gmail.com. You won the 10-pack of U.S. Palm mags. Email me, tell me what you won, and of course we're going to need your address to send it to. All right, now we're going to give away the Seal 1 Complete Gun Care Cleaning Kit. I'll let you guys pick a winner for that. And we've got Facebook and Instagram. We've got questions on both, and if you've got them on your post that you guys did, you can pick a winner from there too.
I go with what's the best side mount optic. Where he's asking, what's the best
Who is it?
mount for the side optic?
Who is it? Who's asking?
Yeah.
Okay, I have a bone stock washer that I bought. If one of the models attachment point for the Peter Wiktorski. You have won the Seal 1 Complete Gun Care Cleaning Kit. TalkingLead@gmail.com. Email me, tell me what you won, and your contact info. Let's give away the what else? The tray, the Mission First tactical dump tray. We'll do that next, and then we'll do the muzzle devices, and then we'll do the trigger. Bruner 1981 JPCE. Going off of the don't AR your AK concept, what is the best way to manipulate the AK trigger for accuracy? Does the typical slowly add pressure until it breaks still apply, or is there a better way? think that'd be a good Ken question.
That's all in the training. You start out by slowly pressing any trigger, but as you evolve, that just happens more rapidly. It's the same trigger press. It just happens quicker with more experience.
Anybody got anything else to add to that? All right, Bruner 1981 JPCE. You have won the Mission First Tactical Dump Tray. You know the operation. Email me, tell me what you won. All right, three. He's giving away 3. Did you say 3 muzzle devices?
I believe he did, Lefty.
Okay, pick a winner there. I think Jay had to drop off or he got disconnected. He said he sent me a text. He just got booted off.
I think he's circling on a ship out in the Pacific at the moment. So yeah.
Yeah. So Zach, pick us a winner for one of those muzzle devices.
There is a gentleman on the Facebook page.
Okay.
That asked the best overall fighting break for a stock AKM.
And what is his name?
Sounds like he needs one.
Who?
Name is Stephen Morgan.
Okay. Stephen Morgan. Does anybody want to take that question? What is the best overall fighting break for a stock AKM?
I think we're sending him one.
Yeah, you really. I agree with that. And this is what he's going to get. So again, we talked earlier about flash suppression, overcompensation for that specific purpose. So yeah, that is a vortex design that Brian has reworked, and again takes the dead air key mount. So you really can't go wrong there.
Very good.
Yeah, not to be confused with like Vortex scopes. It's Smith Enterprises.
Yes, sir.
Right. So Stephen Morgan, email and tell me that what you won. You won one of the Occam Defense's muzzle brakes, and I think for the second one, P-Man 301, he asked a muzzle brake question. That was the one where he was out talking about that crazy looking Russian muzzle device.
Yeah.
So he'll get one. So P-Man, email me, tell me what you won, contact info, all that. And one more muzzle device from Occam Defense Solutions. Who wants to pick that one? John, you want to pick one, or who hasn't picked one yet?
I picked 2 already.
Oh, okay. Ken, have you picked one?
I haven't, but I don't have social up showing anything, so I'll leave it to you guys.
You suck. Come on, man.
Well, there's a guy asking. Remember, he was asking about the adjustable gas blocks. They're here to stay. Where is he? I saw that. Dickney the Third.
Dickie the Third?
Yep.
Okay. Dickie the Third. Why is there so much variability in pitch on the AK muzzle devices? Is that the one?
No, this one is our adjustable gas blocks on an AK a trend are here to stay.
Okay. Well, he's got like.
He sounds like he's going to be putting a suppressor on there, so now he's got a mount to put it on.
There you go, Dickie the Third. You have won the third and final Occam Defense Solution muzzle device. Email. Tell me what you won. And now, Charles, let's do the trigger. CMC AK Trigger.
Is that Casey Loftus?
Casey Loftus?
Loftus?
Okay. What's his question? I think he asked a couple.
ALG seems to be the standard. Do you have any experience with battle arms development, enhanced AK triggers?
Okay. We're like, no, but you're going to get some experience with CMCs, so there you go.
That's right.
Very good.
Casey's a good dude, too.
Congratulations. That's a great trigger.
He actually had an Aklys Defense question. He said on a 7.62 but 3.9 rifle, a slant break or flash hider is all that's needed. That being said, I freaking love the shorty break from Aklys Defense. But do yourself a favor and either run a silencer or a blast can with it. So there you go.
Yeah, I think he has a silencer on order, and I'm 90% sure he has a blast can. And I brought one of our cans up for alumni weekend this past summer and let him, use his rifle like it should be used.
There you go. Very good.
He's going to have a hell of a setup once it's all done.
Yeah.
It sounds like it.
He's not going to have any excuses, is he? So, Very good. So all you winners, email me, talkinglead@gmail.com. Tell me what you won. I need your contact info so that I can forward it on to these guys. And greatly appreciate everybody taking the time to be on. Sorry we didn't get to the stocks. We'll just save that for another episode. But great information on the brakes and the triggers there. So really good conversation, and really appreciate Jay diving into the Ukraine situation, kind of getting us another perspective on that. Ken, you too. I know you probably could do more, but you can't. So
Right.
I understand. Definitely understand that. Before everybody else leaves, let's start with John. John, give everybody your websites, your Instagrams, and anything new and exciting you got going on at M13 Industries, buddy.
It's M13Industries.com or on all the various social medias except for Twitter. We are just chugging along, trying to get everyone's builds done and all the custom work done. We kind of got a little swamped about right before Thanksgiving. We got a huge wave of stuff. Everyone must have decided they were going to do their little Christmas presents. So it got us a little backed up, but I'm just chugging along, getting everyone's stuff done.
Very good. Very good. Zach, over at Aklys Defense, talk about what you guys got going on and where they can get in touch with you guys.
Hell, I don't know. I'm on everything. Yeah, Aklys Defense on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, MoGuns. That's our actual storefront.
That's MEAUX.
Yep.
Yeah. MoGuns. And you guys got any shows or anything coming up? You're gonna be.
We're gonna be at NRA for sure if they have it. We do local gun shows and sportsman shows and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so just check their socials. They usually post where they're going to be. And like I said, we're going to have you guys on. We're going to get some other brothers on. We're going to do a little memorial show for Charles. So.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, sorry Joe couldn't make it. I know he was planning on
Yeah.
making it too. Would love to get his input on all this. Who else is still on with us that's not on camera?
That's it.
Is that it?
Yeah.
So Charles, CMC Triggers. Give us all the skinny on CMC Triggers.
Yeah, so CMCTriggers.com, at CMC Triggers on Facebook and Instagram and all the social medias. We're kind of in the same boat as everyone else right now, just playing catch up with all the craziness the last couple of years. But we're getting on top of that, and we've got a couple of new things out there on the drawing board that I think everyone's gonna be pretty excited about. But we're also going to be out at NRA, so if anyone's out there at NRA, come swing by the booth, come say hi, and come touch these new AK triggers.
There you go. Very nice. Ken, up there in New Hampshire, probably the most important thing that you could do to your AK is take it to one of Ken's classes and train with it. And as you can hear from the last couple episodes that Ken has been on, he knows his stuff, knows exactly what he's talking about. And I don't think you're going to get any better training from anybody in the country than from Ken Allen Training. So, Ken, appreciate you being on. Talk about where everybody can get in touch with you and sign up for one of your courses.
Well, thank you very much, Lefty. Very flattered to be on this panel with these other great gentlemen. I very much look forward to meeting you, Zach and Charles. I already have the privilege of knowing John and Jay and Brian very well. And I also look forward to actually meeting you in person, Lefty.
It'll happen. We're going to do it one day.
Absolutely. Are you going to be out at NRA?
I'm working on it. We have an availability. So if somebody wants to host us, it just came up in the last week or so. So we're looking for a sponsor to bring us out there.
Well, we're looking to get out there and start getting back in touch with the industry and folks. Our schedule is growing again this year. We're going to resume travel training again this year. We typically teach out of the New England and New Hampshire specifically 12 months out of the year, and out of Pelham, New Hampshire, which is down in the south side. So it's just across the Massachusetts border. So flying in out of New Hampshire is super easy. It's only a 20-minute drive from the airport. And if you go into Manchester, specifically Manchester Airport, MHT, super easy, in and out, regional airport. So that would be my suggestion, or Boston. But we're going to start doing some more industry support this year, so you'll see more coming out with us, both in video and white paper, as we were talking about with Brian earlier, related to some of the stuff we're talking about. And one of the things we'll be doing is more of our ballistic testing, which you and I are going to talk about sometime, Lefty.
Absolutely, yeah. We've got a great show lined up talking about that. So
absolutely,
we need to do that sooner than later.
Yeah, and we'll be doing more of that this year. So there'll be another round of ballistic testing, and if there's folks out there that have interest in specific calibers and/or firearms and wanting to know what the ballistic challenges and/or capabilities might be, we might be able to help out with that a little bit in a semi-realistic fashion.
303 British.
I'm sorry, sir.
I'm just kidding. I said the 303 British.
Hey, if it made sense, absolutely.
Yeah.
Try to stick with some of the more common calibers and usages of such.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're having at it. We'll probably be visiting Florida, Texas, Illinois, most likely Utah this year. That's what we're aiming for. Very and cool. Other places, if folks want to host us, please get in touch.
Have gun, we'll travel.
You got it, man, and we do.
And your website again?
Yeah, www.kenallentraining.us. And on Instagram, you can get us at Ken_Allen_training. And I look forward to talking to y'all.
Very good. And Jay had to drop off. You guys can find Jay, the League of Pirates. You can go to their website. I don't know if he does much on his website, but Instagrams, it's LOP Actual, I believe is the way you're going to be able to find Jay there. And, of course, Brian, Occam Defense Solutions, gave you a little plug before he jumped off there. Make sure you go and support those that make the AK Korner possible each and every month for you guys. Our presenting sponsors, Century Arms. He said Andrew was supposed to have been on. He had some updates for you guys, so we'll get those next time, but go check them out on their website. It's US Palm, and you can get the Canic all from their Century Arms website, and it's at Century Arms. It's not the at Century Arms official. I think there's one that says official that comes up, and that's not them. They're just the at Century Arms. And let them know how much you appreciate them making this happen. seal1.com. Go there, use the code LEADHEAD, get 25% off. Any of their products, Mission First Tactical, again, the code is LEADHEAD. You're going to get 20% off. Anything at Mission First Tactical, their dump trays, they got muzzle devices and things for ARs there. They used to do some AK stuff. They're looking at getting back into the AK, but they got their dump trays. They got holsters. They got really good holsters. And their stocks for their ARs. I really like their minimalist stocks that they have. Check them out. Leadhead for 20% off. Factory 47 for the AK Korner official apparel logos. Our big, awesome Letties that we've got. Our mugs. You can get those there. You get the little small ones also. Use the code LEADHEAD. You're going to get 10% off. And, of course, they have all kinds of other cool logo. They've got pretty much all the country's logos and factory seals and all that you can get in hats and shirts and everything. Really cool there. IWIUS, appreciate Jeremy and the crew sponsor us again this year, and we're going to get Jeremy on. He's been traveling quite a bit, so he's not had an opportunity to join us these first 3 episodes, but we will be getting IWI on. And I want to talk Tavors and things like that too. We've talked to Galil and things like that. So going to have some interesting talks with Jeremy throughout the year. And then, of course, who am I forgetting? Occam Defense Solutions, Brian Keeney, Occam Defense Solutions. Great sponsors of the show. He's coming out with new stuff all the time. Brakes, stocks, the Merc handguard, and of course his complete ODS 1775 rifles that Ken's got one right there. He's going to pull up and show. Mine's over here. Beautiful works of art there. I think that was everybody. Did I forget anybody? And again, we appreciate you with the triggers, CMC Triggers. Maybe we can get you guys on board, part of the family, make it a regular thing. We'd like to see that happen.
Let's talk about it.
Until then, Leadheads, as always, make sure you go and support all our sponsors, all our guests. Let them know how much you appreciate them being on. And I'm sure we'll have each and every one of you guys back on again. So we're looking forward to that. Until then, shoot me an email, talkinglead@gmail.com, with any show suggestions or guest suggestions that you may have.